Hey, Mistakes listeners, this is Dave once again, and this week, the Fife and I both, over the weekend, watched the latest Disney Pixar movie, Inside Out. Both of us actually had a lot to talk about in this particular episode concerning this movie because it's deep, deeper than expected. Enjoy the show and actually enjoy the new soundtrack as well. So, here we go. This episode was recorded on July 8th, 2015. And you can follow us on Twitter, /Parent Mistakes. That's /Parent Mistakes. Here we go. Hey, Mistakes listeners. It is good to be back here with my friend Todd Pfeiffer. And you're back from vacation, right? Or one of your micro vacations?
Well, I don't know. It was a full-size vacation, I think. Yeah.
A full size.
A full size. Well, I don't know. I was gone for 9 days. Is that a full size or is that a micro?
That's a supersized vacation, but it's not a small missions project.
No, it is not. No, there's no mission project about it.
Well, there's always a mission, Todd.
Yeah, there is.
I'm
There's
not
always
sure
a mission.
what the mission is, but there's always a mission.
Yes, there is.
So, interesting story to tell you.
Tell me.
Are you ready?
Well, does it matter?
I'm going to tell it to you anyway.
Okay.
So, my wife went to a Mariners game.
Okay.
And during the game, there was a gentleman that jumped out of the stands and ran into the field.
Did she film it?
She did not film it.
Oh.
He lasted all of 20 seconds, according to her.
Okay.
I think it's funny that this story has come up, say, within the past month, twice now. So obviously this is something that a lot of folks just continue to do.
Yeah, it seems to be following us for some reason.
So he got out there. He was out there for 20 seconds, and not the third base coach, but there's actually another dude that sits in like the left field, like way out further.
Yes.
I'm not sure what his role or job is, other than maybe picking up balls or something. I don't know what he does.
Well, there are people down each line, yes, to field balls.
Okay,
They're usually
this guy was not a security guard, and he saw it occurred, and he basically ran as hard as he could into the guy and flew into his midsection and just wiped him out. Yeah.
Okay.
And then within seconds of that, the security guards came onto the field and took him off.
I'm going to guess that his supervisor is going to go to him and say, you know, we appreciate your help, but that's not your role.
So you think that guy got in trouble for actually tackling the rabble-rouser?
Yes. Yes. Unless the guy that fields balls or the girl. It was a guy? Because there's girls sometimes, too.
It was a dude. It was a dude,
okay.
And he basically he just cut him in half, right? And knocked him out.
I think the preference of the ballpark is to end it as quickly as possible, but in a non-violent way.
Yeah, and this was pretty. The guy was toast for sure.
Okay.
There you go. So
there you go.
It is what it is. We'll have to. I mean, as we trend with this, who knows? We may have another opportunity to talk about somebody getting onto the baseball field and going for it.
Yeah, this may just become a regular occurrence in my life.
Obviously. Okay, so tonight we're going to be doing something just a tad bit different. So up to this point, we have been kind of analyzing and looking at TV shows, specifically some Disney's TV. Well, actually, I think they've all been Disney with the exception of Arthur.
Well, on Cartoon Network.
Right. Well, right. Oh, no. Well, Phineas and Ferb was on the Cartoon Network? That's right.
Yes.
Yes, and no, Phineas and Ferb is Disney.
Are they?
Yep. And Clone Wars is actually now Disney.
Yeah, sort of.
Where prior, yes, it was Lucasfilm that was actually being
I don't consider that to be Disney.
Okay. Well, it is now.
I know.
You should consider it.
I know.
So we decided to take a look at a movie because basically we got sucked into the family vortex and both took our families to see the movie Inside Out.
Correct.
So, Todd, what can you tell me about Inside Out?
I was thinking about how to explain this film. Not that the plot is that complex, but it's okay. So to back up, this is a movie that's in the theaters right now. If you are unaware of this, if you're listening to this and you're unaware of this, I'd be a little surprised just because it's around right now. But it is the latest Pixar movie. It also a Disney in general vehicle, but Pixar's done a number of very popular kids movies, Toy Story, that sort of thing. So this movie is about a little girl who is sort of going through a life transition. She's growing up in Minnesota. She's an only child. She has a very happy life with her parents, do lots of fun family stuff together. She plays hockey, lots of great memories.
Her name is Riley.
Yes. And then her dad's job moves them to San Francisco. So they move from this nice, happy, big house life to this little grungy house with no friends in San Francisco. And so that's the general plot of it, but really the story is about this set of emotions in her head. And this is where I was thinking about this. This is, once you see it, you understand, but it's a little hard to explain without some sort of visual. So the emotions in her head are essentially a set of characters.
We should slow down for a second. The spoiler alert, right?
Spoiler alert, yeah.
We're new to this, so
Yeah.
spoiler alert. We're just gonna go into the plot.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
spoil stuff, okay?
Yeah.
So just deal with it, all right?
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to talk about a movie sometimes, particularly your summary conclusions about it without. I don't know. Anyway, so these emotions in her head are sort of these sub characters, or I guess you could say the main characters. They're really sort of the main characters of the movie.
Yep.
And they all have their role that they play, and they're very sort of typecast emotions.
Of course, they have to be.
Yes, very simple. And there are some twists and turns. Some of the memories get sort of disrupted because she's in a new environment. She has sort of a new way of looking at things, and so a couple of them get lost, and a couple of characters go off on this quest, and the hilarity ensues.
Yeah, I think the best way to kind of adapt it for what we're talking about tonight is that in her brain, or in this fictitious area of her brain, there are controls. There's like a station, and there is a statement that is made, not in the movie, but just in life, is that what is driving you? Well, I would say that anger is driving her right now. So basically,
Right.
Anger is at the helm, and he is driving me, and I'm going to do things that are angry because anger is driving. Or joy is now driving me, and I'm going to be very joyful or feel joyful because joy is the thing that's driving me. And
Right.
you can actually see all of these characters are always kind of vying for this control panel.
Right.
What's unique about the movie is that, and as the movie kind of evolves, you can actually see again that there are circumstances in people's lives where you can have multiple feelings at the same time. But one of the issues that Riley faces early on is that there is really only one emotion that can drive her at a time, and all of the emotions don't really come together. At the beginning of the movie, they're not together at all, and they're fighting each other. Like, I'm going to fight sadness, I'm going to fight anger, because I want joy to drive, and yet you can see actually sadness is always trying to sneak in and drive Riley.
Yes.
I think that's a pretty accurate picture of what's occurring in Riley's head.
So what did you like about this movie?
Well, boy. So this movie is interesting for me because I am a strong feeler myself. Well, okay, there's a couple of things that drive me in this film. This is my story. This is totally my story. I was from the Midwest. I was 9 years old, and my life in the Midwest, as I saw it, was perfect in every way. In fact, I remember going on vacations And I would say to my parents, I know we're going to go to Hawaii, we're going to be back, but I want to make sure before we leave I can hug my house. I would literally walk up to my house and hug it because I loved being in that location at that time. And my dad had a job transition, and he actually moved west to Seattle, and my entire world was shattered, just destroyed. Very similar to what happened to Riley. So it hit me on a very personal level. It's sort of hard for me to kind of disassociate because for me, the move is actually the biggest thing that's really happened to me up until I got my state driver's license or I got married. Obviously, probably going to college too is big. But yeah, so that's my story. The other point that I'll bring into it is that we thought this movie would be great for my eldest, who is also a very strong emoter. We thought that we could go into this movie and she could walk away with it going, oh, there's some useful tools for her to be had. We can say, do you remember, Kayleen, when you saw that anger was driving you? Is that what's driving you now? And I thought, wow, this is going to be a great tool for her. Of course, she's 6. That didn't exactly turn out the way that we wanted it to. And in the end, what was kind of interesting, too, is that I would say that it was more for Julie and I than it was for our 2 kids. So that's kind of my initial impression on it before I kind of get into an analysis of it. But that's where I'm coming with it. And I'm going to say my vibe is I really had a good time.
Yeah, it's a fun film. It's a thinking film, I think, particularly for parents. And I think there's various situations throughout the film where, you talk about these emotions are driving. Really, it comes down to we as people are faced with situations all the time, particularly situations of stress and conflict, difficulties, and we have to make choices. Whether we sort of just let our whatever is driving us at the moment, if we let the raw emotion just sort of take over, or whether we say to ourselves, all right, I'm going to choose right now, even though I want to be sad, I'm going to choose to look at the bright side of things.
Right.
As a parent, and again, spoiler alert, there are scenes where they get into other people's heads as well. So even though Riley is the focal point of the movie, they also get into the heads of the parents. And I thought some of the interplay there where the parents have to decide. And I know this and I imagine you have this as well as a parent, that when your child, for example, acts up, and there are scenes in the movie where the child is frustrated and lashes out at the parents, you have to make a decision at that point to sort of say, all right, do I lash back, or do I say, all right, I'm the parent, I'm mature, I'm calm, I'm going to continue to be calm even though I'm frustrated with the child. Mm-hmm. So that was it's pretty realistic. Mm-hmm. Even though it's a Disney vehicle, which always has a certain, Disney-fied sort of perspective on life, but I thought some of those interactions between the child and the parent and sort of how the parent wants to deal with the situation were pretty spot on to what happens in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I noticed about when they cut to the parents was that, and when they actually cut to a lot of the other folks, I don't know if you watched some of the end credits, but I think what they were saying is that a fully realized adult, actually all of their emotions are now working in tandem.
Right.
You could see with the mom that she had all the kind of the feelings going, high-fiving and really working together, where Riley, throughout the majority of the movie, it's, again, the emotions fighting each other. And Joy is actually the center of the film. And obviously the climatic end is when Joy realizes that to get to joy, you must have sadness first in this case.
Correct.
So the big hang-up for Riley is that she wants to hold on to all these wonderful things that happened to her childhood that have been completely eliminated, and she doesn't want to be sad about them, so she can't be sad about them, so she's literally stuck. She can't move forward. What's interesting about the movie, again, is that that statement of I've lost joy or I've lost sadness, sorry, is a totally true statement, right? There are times in your life where you're like, I just can't access joy. I just can't access my sadness or despair. I'm just nothing at this point. It's lost to me. And what's interesting at that point is that the other emotions, and this is true of me too, is that anger plays a big role in my life when those things go away. Like, all right, now anger is going to drive me. Yeah. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I'm saying there's a lot of truism to the film. And as I analyze it, I'm like, man, where does this movie sit? And that's difficult for me to kind of figure out. Like, again, I think there was a Finding Nemo aspect to it where they're trying to get back home. And, I will say that Maddie, who is 3 at this point, just liked the interplay between the characters. She giggled at some of the slapstick stuff.
Right.
Kayleen did not walk away with the point that we wanted her to have. I think she's still kind of like, it's kind of funny. It's an animated movie. It must be for me. But I don't think she walked away with a whole lot of thought. In fact, when we left the theater, the kids were all crazy, and I could look at all the parents, and I could actually see 2 parents who were just wiping their eyes. Right.
Right.
It's an excellent movie. It really is an excellent movie.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think I imagine it's probably hard movie for some parents to watch, particularly because, and again, I'll just caveat again, spoiler alert, I'll just say this, it's a Disney film, so you can guess how it's going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
Pixar does not make Old Yeller. They don't make movies that are going to just completely erode. There's going to probably be a happy ending. I'll just give you that hint. So I think it's probably hard for parents that would watch this movie who have not quite had their happy ending yet with their child, because the main character sort of goes through some of the sort of the teen angst phase,
mm-hmm.
where we all sort of went through this, and I have teenagers that go through these phases every once in a while, where they're just kind of in a bad mood sometimes. And we all get in a bad mood every once in a while, just
mm-hmm.
for no particular reason. But it seems like with teenagers, they've got the hormones going, they've got a bunch of different stuff going on, identity, friends, school, that sort of thing. So sometimes they just sort of get into these ruts, these emotional ruts, where they're just in a bad mood, and you're like, what's going on? What's wrong? Do you want to talk about it? And they're like, go away, leave me alone. I imagine it's hard for parents who have those, but have not had their kids sort of come out of it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because some kids, they go to sort of a place where if they had a happy childhood, they leave it behind. They sort of latch on to sort of a combination of anger and resentment and disgust with the world and not a lot of happiness, and they sort of stay there for a while. They don't really reemerge, sometimes for a really long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I imagine that's probably hard, because when you do have a teenager that has those situations, you get it. Like in the movie, you can watch the Riley character and you can sort of see the setup, and you can sort of see that the parents didn't necessarily go out of their way to destroy their child's happiness.
Right. No.
They did what a lot of parents do. They sit down, they go, we've got this new opportunity, and this may be as good a time to go move as any. Let's just go for it. How many people have done this in their life? And they go, and the kid does not react well. And that was not their goal. And even if they do it sensitively and supportively, sometimes it just doesn't go well. Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I think what I hear both of us is that this movie is actually a great tool. But one point I bring to it is that I don't think that my younger children totally got it, other than they just enjoyed the Nemo parts.
Right.
I would say that this actually is more aimed at, that tween audience for sure, and their parents. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
If we get to say the mistakes part of the episode, I would say the mistake that Disney made in this movie was a lack of one other emotion, and that would have been peace or tranquility. I would
Okay.
have loved to have seen just one more emotion that basically says it's okay to be calm, or
Right.
how can I kind of reel this in, or
Sort
I
of
mean,
neutral.
yeah,
bit.
well, neutral is already in the movie because she becomes neutral when the emotions fly away. But there is definitely a feeling of you certainly get a serenity is something that occurs from time to time. It's
Yes.
something and it's something that our culture really lacks right now. Like I've always got to be tuned in, and I think that's the one mistake the movie makes is that all of these feelings and emotions are all like amped up and tuned in.
Right. They're extreme.
They're extreme, and there is actually no emotion in there. It's like, hey, it's okay.
There's no contentment.
It would have been funny to have another emotion that it was more like a hippie, right? Like, hey, man, it's cool. I can
let's
handle
just
this.
relax.
Serenity,
Just relax.
right? Yeah,
Everybody
I mean-
calm. Everybody calm down. a little bit.
Exactly. It would have been great to have that, because it would have demonstrated a whole nother aspect of Riley's personality that, in my opinion, she desperately needed. And
Well,
she just couldn't have that.
and that's a transitional emotion too. And I guess you could probably make the argument that some of that is something that does happen with age, with maturity, because you don't necessarily go from anger to happiness.
Mm-hmm.
None of us do, which is fair. You're not just really amped up, frustrated, and then all of a sudden you're just hopping up and down with joy.
Right.
There are transitional stages where you have to sort of calm down, and then you sort of transition into a different mood.
Mm-hmm.
I agree it's a good tool. I think the hard part is, and this is always my caution with films like this and with sort of psychoanalysis of yourself and of your children, you can watch a movie like this and all of a sudden you think you're a therapist.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
It's like, it's like students that go to college and they take Intro to Psychology,
Yeah.
which can be a great course. I would say when you go to college, most colleges, you're required to take something like that anyway. But I'd say a good Intro to Psych is a good course. Intro to Sociology is a good course. But the hard part is people take the psych course and all of a sudden they walk out of there and they go, oh, so I read about this Freud guy and yeah, it all sort of makes sense now. And now I understand. And now I think I can counsel all my friends and family members. And I understand the relationship now between these. No, you don't. You're not a therapist. You can't dole out advice. You can't solve people's problems.
I don't think Inside Out's going to give you that much, but
No,
I get what you're saying.
No, but as you said, there's sort of a simplistic thing there, and
Yeah.
not that kids would sort of run amok with it, but sort of you don't want them to sort of say, well, because like even the anger character in the film is a funny character, that he's comic relief,
Mm-hmm.
whereas real anger, whether child or adult, is not always a great thing. It's the reality of life. We have moments of anger that we have to deal with. But usually when people are truly angry, we're not sitting around chuckling at them going, "Oh, they're really upset. That's funny."
Right.
So I think they sort of, yeah, again, that's the softening aspect of the film.
Yep.
To sort of say, look, if you made it real angry, or the sadness character is, I don't know, sort of mopey, but in a very endearing sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Not like truly, can't get out of bed depressed.
Right.
There's still kind of it's cute when people are a little sad sometimes.
Yeah.
All
I,
these-
I totally get what you're saying. And we might be overanalyzing it. I
Well,
mean,
that's what we do.
okay. I guess you're right. I guess there's just a lot to say about the film.
Yeah.
And I hear another, obviously the point that we walk away is it's a great tool, I'd say, for tweens,
Yes.
and for parents. I'd say it's a great tool for not a tool, but oh, what am I trying to say, Todd? It's a great tool, and I would also say that it is a. I have totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I will jump in and say this, that
Sorry.
I can recommend this film to a pretty wide audience. We went actually when we were on vacation with a pretty large group of family members that stretched from age 7 to age 69,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody enjoyed it. As you said, you took younger kids. It is PG.
Yep.
So I will offer one, sort of caution to the younger kids, parents that have younger kids, because I think the thought process sometimes for parents is that, oh, well, if it's an animated film, then it's totally fine for anyone. And that's not necessarily the case, because as much as there's not really an antagonist character, there's not really like super scary moments. There are a few, what you'd call thematic elements.
Well, I would actually say
there's uncertainty.
I would say that the ratings board did a good job. Let me give you some credit to the MPAA in this case. They might have just put PG because kids just don't totally get this film. And I thought, again, Kayleen will get it. Maddie probably won't get it. Kayleen didn't get it at all. Again,
Right.
There was this aspect of, it's Finding Nemo. I wouldn't say there was anything in the movie that was like incredibly scary or incredibly, boy, my kid's just going to walk away with a nightmare. But I would say for sure that my kids walked away with, well, I was entertained by an animated movie, but it really wasn't for them.
I guess I think of it through the lens of one of my kids, who I would say was more sensitive to conflict, even in kids' movies, when they were younger. So I remember, we went to see Cars in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And, Cars is pretty, there's not really a lot of, like, angst in Cars. But the moment Lightning McQueen rolls out of the truck and is lost
Right.
on the highway, this child leans over to me in the theater and whispers, "Is Lightning ever going to make it to California?"
Right.
Like, they figured out that, okay, there's a problem now.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the Inside Out, there's definitely sort of a quest that a couple of emotions go on, and there is the possibility that things are not going to turn out all right. Now, the parents can watch and go, all right, Disney doesn't, kill all the characters at the end of the movie. That's just not what they do with this sort of thing. They know what's coming.
They almost did it in Toy Story 3, but that didn't happen.
Right. But the kids don't necessarily know that yet.
Right. Totally.
So they can be a little bit anxious.
And I would say that neither of my children were anxious, but I can see what you're saying, that there might be other sensitive children that would say, oh, they're never going to get out of the abyss or whatever they got stuck in.
Right.
The memory drop.
Yes.
Well, I think that is a complete and full analysis of that film, so I'm going to say, yeah, definitely see this movie, see it with your family. And I actually recommend seeing it with your family and have a discussion afterwards. I mean, don't lose this opportunity. The mistake here that would be made by you parents would be not having a great, healthy discussion after watching this movie.
Well, and I think the other thing we didn't really talk about is, in addition to the emotions, and we could get into a whole other discussion of this, in the movies there are these islands that are sort of the major facets of a person's personality. And those are the important things to that person at that particular phase of their life.
Right.
And I think that is also a very interesting discussion point for a family to sort of sit down and, if you sat down as a family and you sort of identified all of your sort of your core values, what is important to you.
Those were like islands that. So, for example, I've got a family island that I'm constantly building. So there's the islands in your mind.
Right.
Where is that? Is that being bolstered? Is it not? I mean, she had a hockey.
Right.
So you might have a baseball island in your mind, something where you're like, I really enjoy it. Like mine would be a video game island for sure.
Right.
Right. Like this is a place I like to go to. Yeah, again, you could totally sit there and analyze this movie. Like,
Yeah.
is your video game island bigger than your family island? Like, you know,
Right.
it's like, what dominates you? What makes you go? Or what are some of the islands that just don't exist anymore? Or better yet, I mean, again, there are so many ways you could take this. I mean, I thought the gimme for the sequel would be Riley dating, right? Like Riley is going to find. I mean, it's just that it would be such a total Disney thing to pick up as Riley Hinders in her late teenage years, and she's figuring out about
Right.
boys or whatever.
And they did hint at that a little bit.
I thought that's definitely where they'd go with that. You know, Boyfriend Island, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yeah. We could go on for a long
We
time
could.
here, folks.
Yes. All
So
right. There
I'd
you
say
go.
this. You can follow us on Twitter at
Parent mistakes.
so it's Twitter
Slash parent.
parent
Yes.
mistakes.
Parent mistakes.
Obviously, someone is anybody following us yet? I don't want to say.
I'm following us.
Oh,
and
that's
you're following
good. That's
us.
good.
Follow us on Twitter. We like Twitter.
We do.
And if you like what we're doing, tell us. And if you don't like what we're doing, you can
Yeah.
tell us that too.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Talk to you soon, my friend.
yep, that's it.
All right. Good evening.